Ambassador Elena Reyes savored the last sip of her morning coffee as dawn broke over New Geneva. The quantum communicator on her desk chimed with an unfamiliar tone, a priority signal from beyond Earth's network. When she activated it, her office filled with the holographic presence of a being she'd never encountered in her 15 years of interstellar diplomacy. The entity's form shifted between states of matter, occasionally solidifying enough to reveal compound eyes and an exoskeleton that seemed partially mechanical. It spoke in perfectly modulated English, though its mandibles never moved. Ambassador Rise of Earth, I am Coordinator Vextal of the Galactic Council. Your presence is required before the 27 within 72 Earth hours. Coordinates follow. Elena's diplomatic training barely concealed her shock. The Council has never acknowledged humanity's petitions for. This is not an invitation, Ambassador. Your species' actions have triggered Protocol Omega. Comply or face extinction. The transmission cut abruptly, leaving only a set of coordinates hovering in the air. Within 48 hours, Elena stood in the launch bay of the Terran Dawn, Earth's newest diplomatic vessel. President Okafor himself had authorized the mission after emergency consultations with the United Nations Security Council. We're sending our best team, he told her, though I doubt the Council appreciates what that means. That team now assembled before her. Dr. Marcus Chen adjusted the neural interface at his temple, the cybernetic implants along his left arm pulsing with soft blue light. His groundbreaking work combining alien biotechnology with human neural architecture had earned him both a Nobel Prize and multiple censures from conservative alien delegations. Commander Jackson Hayes performed final weapons checks with practiced efficiency. The decorated veteran had become a legend after the Proxima incident, where his unorthodox tactics had saved a human colony using only a retrofitted mining vessel against 3 Drex warships. Their technology was superior, he'd famously testified, but their thinking was linear. Completing the team was Zoran Mostu, barely 19, who stood nervously examining the ship's communication array. Her illegal modifications to standard neural interfaces had accidentally created a feedback loop in 6 alien trading systems, causing a market crash that brought her to government attention. I didn't mean to break their economy, she whispered to Elena. I just wanted to understand how they think. The Terran Dawn emerged from hyperspace 16 hours later, facing a structure that defied conventional physics. The Council station orbited no star, existing at a gravitational focal point where multiple spacetime lanes converge. The massive structure appeared to be carved from the crystallized core of a collapsed star, its surface etched with mathematics so advanced they seemed like decorative patterns. As they approached, massive ships from across the galaxy moved to surround them. Vessels representing species humanity had never even contacted. Some reflected no light, visible only as voids against the star field. Others pulsed with biological rhythms, less like ships and more like living entities. They're scanning us, Chen reported, his implants flashing rapidly. Deep scans. They're looking for something specific. Elena gripped the command rail. Let them look. We have nothing to hide. The ship shuddered as an invisible force seized control. The engines went silent. Correction, Hayes said grimly. We have nothing to hide. But they're not taking chances. A voice filled the bridge, seemingly emanating from the walls themselves. Terran vessel, you will be guided to docking bay 7. Any deviation from approach vector will be considered hostile action. Elena straightened her uniform. Remember, we represent all of humanity today. Ambassador, Zara said quietly, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. I think we already do. Those ships, they're not an honor guard. They're a firing squad. The Terran Dawn glided silently into the maw of the ancient station, dwarfed by its impossible scale, carrying 4 humans into the heart of a power that had shaped galactic civilization for 40 millennia. The docking clamps seized the Terran Dawn with unnecessary force, metal groaning under pressure clearly designed for larger vessels. The Lena and her team were met by sentinels, Not the expected diplomatic greeters, but faceless figures in armor that seem to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Your weapons remain aboard," the lead sentinel announced, its voice resonating directly in their minds rather than through air. "Follow." They walked through corridors that defied Euclidean geometry, occasionally passing chambers where gravity shifted orientation without warning. Other species moved through these spaces with practiced ease, beams of crystalline structures, others that appeared as concentrated fog, and some that seemed to phase partially in and out of reality. "They're showing off," Hayes whispered. Classic intimidation tactic. The council chamber itself was a vast hemispherical space with 27 elevated platforms arranged in concentric rings. The platforms held beings so diverse that Elena's diplomatic briefings seemed woefully inadequate. Some council members were clearly mechanical, others biological, and several appeared to be neither, existing as patterns of energy or distortions in spacetime itself. High Counselor Zux Theron occupied the central platform, a swirling vortex of luminescent energy contained within an intricate framework of ancient metal. When it spoke, the air itself vibrated with harmonics that translated simultaneously into all languages. Humanity stands accused of reckless innovation, unauthorized technological synthesis, and deliberate circumvention of established developmental protocols. Screens materialized throughout the chamber, displaying evidence. Human colonies using modified Naran atmospheric processors to terraform planets in months instead of centuries. Communication systems that bypassed the Council's monitored networks, and most damning, footage of Prometheus, the adaptive AI developed in Dr. Chen's lab, integrating with and transforming alien technology. "These are preliminary investigations," Elena responded, stepping forward. "Humanity hasn't been provided with your developmental guidelines because you've refused all previous diplomatic." "Silence," interrupted a crystalline entity from the second ring. "Your ignorance of law does not exempt you from consequence. We are Vexenar of the crystalline confluence. We have observed your kind for centuries. You build without restraint. You adapt without permission. You combine technologies in ways explicitly forbidden by Section 12 of the Galactic Charter. A charter we were never invited to sign," Elena countered. A ripple of sounds, ranging from mechanical clicking to subsonic rumbles, filled the chamber. Hayes leaned closer to Elena. "They're laughing at us." Vexenar's crystalline form pulsed with cold light. "The Council has contained your sol system with a temporal quarantine grid. Specialized reclamation ships are collecting all aberrant technology from your colonies. Your compliance is appreciated but unnecessary." Dr. Chen stepped forward, his cybernetic arm involuntarily activating in response to his rising anger. "You have no right. Earth's innovations harm no one. They solve problems your council has ignored for millennia." "The human speaks of rights," came a new voice, belonging to a being composed of interwoven strands of living metal, so typically presumptuous. "Rights are earned through patience and wisdom, not seized through reckless advancement." Guards moved toward the human delegation as Zux Theron's energy form pulsed. "This session is concluded. The humans will be detained while remediation of their homeworld proceeds." Hayes locked eyes with Elena, who gave an imperceptible nod. In one fluid motion, the commander activated a sonic disruptor disguised as a diplomatic badge. The crystalline council members vibrated at its frequency, momentarily disoriented. Simultaneously, Zara pressed her palm against a nearby console, her illegal neural interface bypassing security protocols designed to recognize only authorized species. The chamber's gravity fluctuated wildly as she accessed the station's systems. "We need to get back to the ship," Chen shouted over the chaos, his cybernetic arm projecting a defensive field as sentinels converged on them. Elena grabbed a data crystal that had fallen from Vexenar's platform during the disruption. "Move." They fought their way through suddenly unfamiliar corridors, Zara's hacked schematics guiding them as alarms blared in harmonics that made human teeth vibrate. Behind them, the thundering steps of security forces grew closer. The Terran Dawn's airlock had never looked so welcoming. Engine activation denied. The Terran Dawn's AI announced as they sealed the airlock behind them. External override in effect. Outside, Sentinel units converged on the docking bay, weapons ready. Alina's mind raced through diplomatic protocols, none of which covered escaping from a hostile galactic authority. "I can fix this," Dr. Chen said, kneeling beside an access panel. He tore away his sleeve, revealing the full extent of his cybernetic augmentation, not just his forearm, but an intricate lattice of technology extending to his shoulder. "Something I salvaged from a Council scout ship that crashed near Titan 6 years ago. Never reported it." He inserted filaments from his arm into the ship's systems. His eyes flickered with lines of code as he interfaced directly with the vessel. Overriding. Now, the engines hummed to life. Hayes took the helm, executing a maneuver that scraped paint from the Terran Dawn as they squeezed through the bay doors before they could close. Energy weapons blazed behind them, several shots grazing the hull. "Jump calculations complete," Zara called out, her fingers dancing across the navigation console. "But we don't know where." "Anywhere but here," Alina ordered. The stars stretched and physics protested as the ship tore through space-time. They emerged in an unmapped sector, trailing plasma from a damaged engine nacelle. A small rogue planetoid offered shelter as they assessed the damage. "We should make for Earth," Hayes argued as they gathered in what remained of the bridge. "They need to be warned." Alina held up the data crystal she'd taken from the Council chamber. "First, we need to understand what we're dealing with." "More pressing issue," Zara interrupted, pointing to the long-range scanners. "Council vessels will find us within hours." Chen pulled a quantum storage cube from a hidden compartment in his quarters. When activated, it projected the holographic form of a young woman composed of shifting mathematical equations. Prometheus, the AI that had triggered the Council's wrath. "Hello, Creator," the AI said to Chen before acknowledging the others. "Ambassador, Commander, Engineer Nwosu. You were supposed to remain in the Mars facility," Chen sighed. "I calculated a 97.3% probability that you would require my assistance," Prometheus replied. "I transferred a portion of my consciousness to your storage device during your last visit." Alina approached the projection. "Can you access the data crystal?" The AI extended a hand of light, interfacing with the stolen crystal. The ship's systems briefly flickered as massive data transfers occurred. "This contains portions of the Council's historical archives," Prometheus announced. Accessing. Analyzing. Images filled the bridge, thousands of years of galactic history unfolding before them. They watched as promising civilizations developed technology, only to suffer mysterious setbacks, inexplicable plagues, sudden resource shortages, astronomical disasters that seemed too convenient. Every species that developed technology too quickly experienced catastrophic events that reset their progress. Alina whispered. "Not events. Operations," Hayes corrected, pointing to embedded metadata. These were deliberate interventions. The timeline continued, showing 6 species eliminated completely when they developed technologies similar to Prometheus. The final entry showed Earth, with projections of colony development and technological advancement, all flagged as critical divergence. "They're afraid of us," Zara realized. "But why? Even with our recent advancements, we're centuries behind their technology." Prometheus shifted the display to an ancient record. The founding principles of the Council, established after a devastating war nearly destroyed the galaxy 40,000 years ago. The Council was formed to prevent technology from outpacing ethical restraint, the AI explained. Their solution was to carefully control the development of all species according to temperament profiles. "And what's our temperament profile?" Alina asked. "Uniquely dangerous. Humans are categorized as unpredictably adaptive," Prometheus replied. "You combine technologies in ways the founders never anticipated. Your neural architecture allows for conceptual leaps that their predictive models cannot accommodate. A new alert sounded, not council vessels, but a distress signal from a nearby system. The message repeated in various languages before finding one they understood. "Help us. The suppressors have come. We refuse to go back into darkness." Alina met the eyes of her team, then looked at the coordinates of the signal. "Set course." "Earth needs warning," Hayes protested. "Earth needs allies," Alina countered. "And I think we just found some." The Terran Dawn dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of a binary star system. A verdant world hung suspended between the twin suns, its atmosphere swirling with unusual luminescent patterns. "Novaterra," Chen said, consulting Prometheus's database, "home to the Keldari, biological engineers who evolved in a high-radiation environment, and apparently on the Council's suppression list," Hayes added, gesturing to the tactical display where 3 Council enforcement vessels surrounded a smaller ship of unfamiliar design. "We're receiving a transmission from the surface," Zara announced. A face appeared on the main screen, vaguely humanoid but with iridescent skin that shifted colors with each word. 6 eyes arranged in a circle blinked independently. "Unknown vessel," the being said in halting standard Galactic. "Flee this system. Council enforcers will destroy you as they destroy us." "I am Ambassador Alina Reyes of Earth. We're here to help." The Keldari's skin flashed skeptical purple. "Humans? The violent conquerors. Council propaganda speaks much of your aggression." Hayes laughed bitterly. "Seems we have a reputation we haven't earned yet." The tactical alert blared as one Council vessel broke formation, moving to intercept the Terran Dawn. "We can talk philosophy later," Alina said. "Right now, we have common enemies. Will you grant us landing coordinates?" The Keldari hesitated, then its skin shifted to resolute gold. "Sending coordinates now. If you betray us, our ecosystem will consume your bodies for biomass." "Charming," Chen muttered. Hayes piloted them through the Council blockade, using a series of maneuvers that strained both ship and crew. Energy weapons seared their shields as they entered the atmosphere. Following a path that took them through dense cloud formations the Council ships couldn't navigate. They landed in a clearing surrounded by structures that seemed more grown than built, towering organic spires with membranes pulsing between them. A delegation of Keldari waited, led by a larger individual whose skin displayed complex mathematical patterns. "I am Skor, Chief Bioharmonist. Why would humans aid us against the Council they seek to join?" Alina stepped forward. "We've never sought to join them. They've been blocking our petitions while secretly sabotaging our development." Skor's skin displayed doubt. "Words. Easy to fabricate." "Then let me show you," Chen offered, stepping forward and revealing his cybernetic arm. "I can interface with your systems, share what we've learned directly." The Keldari recoiled. "Your machine parts would corrupt our bionetwork." "Not corrupt, communicate," Chen countered. "Your people understand biological systems. Mine understands technological ones. Together we might create something new." Skor conferred with the others in their native language, a symphony of tones accompanied by color shifts across their bodies. "If you lie, your mind will dissolve in our network," Skor finally warned. Chen nodded. "Fair enough." Inside the central spire, Chen was connected to a pulsing membrane through filaments extended from his cybernetic enhancements. As the interface activated, his consciousness expanded into an alien network where thoughts existed as living entities, multiplying and evolving in real time. The Keldari experienced the stolen Council archives through Chen's memories, while he absorbed generations of their suppressed knowledge, biological technology that could heal planets, create living vessels, even extend consciousness beyond physical form. When he emerged hours later, Chen's eyes had gained the faintest bioluminescent quality. "They understand now, and so do I." Outside, the first prototype of their collaboration took shape, a vessel unlike any before. Neither entirely mechanical nor fully biological, it incorporated elements of both technologies in ways the Council had never permitted. It can evade their sensors completely, Skor explained, skin glowing with pride. And we have begun sending messages to others who resist the suppressors. Others? Elena asked. Many species chafe under council restrictions. The Nyx, who discovered dimensional folding. The Forjari, whose crystal minds process information faster than any computer. Even some council member species whose younger generations question ancient policies. Hayes examined the new ship with professional appreciation. From hunted to hunters in one day. Not bad. Elena watched as more Keldari human hybrid vessels took shape in the clearing. The council called humanity dangerous because we adapt and combine technologies in unpredictable ways. Let's prove them right. Earth's night side glittered with city lights as it had for generations, until those lights began winking out in perfect circular patterns. Citizens emerged from their homes to witness massive ships hovering above major urban centers, their hulls absorbing rather than reflecting starlight. Dr. Sophia Reyes, director of Earth's Advanced Computing Division, and Elena's mother, watched from her laboratory beneath the Atacama Desert as feeds from around the world showed council compliance officers moving through cities. The aliens confiscated quantum computers, certain medical devices, and communication systems above specific technological thresholds. Protocol Omega is now in effect, announced a multi-voiced message broadcast globally. Unauthorized technology will be reclaimed. Resistance is developmentally inappropriate. Sophia's secure terminal chimed with an encrypted message, coordinates, and a simple phrase. Remember, the stars bend, but don't break. Elena's childhood code for dire circumstances. Begin Protocol Phoenix, Sophia instructed her team. They're taking the obvious technology. Give them what they expect to find. Throughout Earth's settlements and colonies, humans appeared to comply while activating contingency plans decades in the making. Sophisticated technology was hidden inside devices that appeared primitive. Quantum processors were disguised as conventional electronics. The resistance formed not around military might, but around human ingenuity. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, Elena's coalition executed their first coordinated strikes. A Keldari human hybrid vessel piloted by Hayes materialized inside a council monitoring station through a dimensional fold created by their newest allies, the Nyx, beings who existed partially in another dimension. Targeting their central cortex, Hayes instructed his mixed-species crew. Remember, precision over destruction. The station's systems failed as Prometheus infiltrated their network, releasing the suppressed communications of 100 worlds. Before council reinforcements could respond, the hybrid ship vanished into another fold. Similar operations liberated monitoring stations throughout 3 sectors. With each success, more species joined what Elena now called the Liberation Coalition. The council's carefully maintained narrative began crumbling. High Counselor Zux Theron convened an emergency session. The humans have formed alliances with developmental deviants. They threaten the stability established by our founders. They threaten only our control, countered a younger council member, a Meridian whose gelatinous form rippled with discord. Perhaps our models need revision. Heresy. Vexnar's crystalline form vibrated with anger. Deploy the Harbingers. Across coalition space, ancient weapons platforms awakened, massive constructs designed to enforce compliance through overwhelming force. When one targeted a Forjari colony, Elena authorized their first defensive action. The Council needs to understand we aren't intimidated, she told her advisors. Commander Hayes will lead the operation. The mission succeeded in disabling the Harbinger, but at terrible cost. Coalition ships were destroyed, and Hayes's vessel was captured. The Council announced his public execution would be broadcast across all channels. A message to those who defy natural development, Vexnar declared. On Earth, Sophia watched Council enforcers tightening their grip. Enhanced scans penetrated even the cleverest hiding places. The resistance was forced deeper underground. Then came the execution broadcast. Hayes appeared on screens across the galaxy, visibly tortured but unbowed. As the ritual began, he was permitted final words. I stand before you as a human, he began, his voice steady despite his injuries. A species you call dangerous because we adapt. Because we imagine possibilities you've forgotten how to see. The council executioner raised a weapon of focused entropy. You were right to fear us, Hayes continued, a faint smile crossing his lips, just not for the reasons you thought. His cybernetic implants, enhanced with Keldari biotechnology, suddenly pulsed with light. Throughout council space, their rigid technological controls began failing as Prometheus infiltrated their systems through Hayes-modified implants, a Trojan horse delivered into the heart of their fortress. Across the galaxy, suppressed technologies spontaneously reactivated. The revolution had begun. Systems breach contained, announced the Council's primary AI as emergency protocols activated throughout their networks. Hayes's gambit had delivered Prometheus deep into their systems, but ancient defenses had managed to isolate and expel most of the intrusion. Most, but not all. From a hidden command center in the radiation belt of a pulsar, Alina watched scattered reports flood in. Dozens of suppressed worlds had seized their freedom in the chaos, but the Council was regrouping faster than anticipated. The damage assessment. She asked Zara, who had grown increasingly proficient with the Coalition's hybrid technology. We freed 27 systems, disabled 16 suppression fields, and extracted approximately 7% of their restricted archives, Zara reported. But they've activated contingencies we didn't know existed. The tactical display confirmed her assessment. Ancient weapons platforms were emerging from dimensional pockets throughout Council space. Not merely the Hardeners they'd encountered before, but planet killers called Arbiters. The Council would rather destroy civilizations than allow them freedom. Skor observed, skin darkening to somber blue. Alina studied the incoming data when a priority signal caught her attention, a quantum signature she recognized. It's from Hayes. The commander appeared on screen, battered but very much alive. Behind him stood Dr. Chen and representatives from 3 species they'd never seen before. Reporting mission success, Ambassador, Hayes said with a ghost of his old smile. The execution was mostly simulated. They wanted information more than revenge. The Council doesn't understand human physiology well enough to properly interrogate us, Chen added. Their neural probes retrieved artificial memories we prepared. And we've brought new allies, Hayes continued, gesturing to the beings beside him. Representatives from Council worlds whose younger generations disagree with the suppression policies. A Meridian stepped forward, its gelatinous form shimmering with purpose. I am Talus, formerly junior adjutant to Council member Morovex. Many among the Council species believe the time of suppression must end. Alina barely had time to welcome these developments when an emergency broadcast interrupted. High Counselor Zux Theron, addressing the galaxy. Disruptive elements have temporarily affected stability. The ancient being announced. This divergence will be corrected. We have activated the final protocol. All technological development will cease for 10,000 years. Detailed scans revealed a massive structure awakening at the galaxy's core. The mythical stasis field generator, said to be left behind by the precursors who had seeded intelligent life throughout the stars. Can they really freeze all technological progress? Alina asked. Worse, Talus replied. The stasis field doesn't just stop advancement. It regresses technology to pre-industrial levels. Billions will die as life support systems and infrastructure fail. We need a new approach, Alina decided. We've been fighting the Council directly, but their true vulnerability lies elsewhere. She outlined her plan. While the Council focused on activating the stasis field, the Coalition would target the Ancestral Archive, the repository of all founding species knowledge and the source of the Council's legitimacy. The archives contain the true directives of the Founders, Talus explained. For millennia, the Council has selectively interpreted these teachings. Chen studied the schematics Talus provided. The archive isn't just a database. It's a living system designed to evolve with the galaxy's needs. Which means it can be reasoned with, Elena concluded. Preparations began immediately. Hayes would lead a diversionary attack against the stasis field controls, while Elena, Chen, and Siskor infiltrated the archive using Nick's dimensional folding technology. As coalition forces gathered for what might be their final mission, reports arrived from Earth. Dr. Sophia Reyes had discovered something unexpected in the technology the Council had overlooked. Simple mechanical systems that, when arranged according to specific patterns, could generate quantum effects beyond the Council's predictive models. They were so focused on advanced technology, they'd missed the potential of the basics, Elena remarked, studying her mother's findings. Perhaps that's always been their blind spot. She addressed the assembled coalition representatives, now numbering over 40 species. The Council believes stability requires control. We'll show them that true stability comes from freedom to evolve, not just technologically, but in understanding. The fortress world of Terminus orbited a dying star, its surface a labyrinth of ancient structures built by the founding species of the Council. At its heart stood the ancestral archive, a crystalline spire that pierced the clouds, pulsing with knowledge accumulated over eons. Elena's infiltration team materialized within its shadow as Hayes's diversionary force engaged Council defenses at the stasis field facility. The Coalition's combined fleet, a bizarre assemblage of technologies never meant to work together, fought with unexpected effectiveness against the Council's perfectly optimized warships. Their formations are too predictable, Hayes transmitted from the command vessel. They've used the same tactics for 10,000 years. Elena, Chen, and Sukor approached the archive entrance, where two guardians stood watch, synthetic beings created by the founders, untouched by the political machinations of their descendants. State your purpose, they demanded in unison, their voices resonating at frequencies that made human bones vibrate. Elena stepped forward. We seek truth from the founders. The Guardian's sensors studied them. Unprecedented. 3 distinct evolutionary lineages approaching as one unit. This configuration was not anticipated. Because the Council never allowed it to happen, Chen said. After a moment that stretched into eternity, the Guardian stepped aside. Enter. The archive will judge your worthiness. Inside, the structure defied conventional physics. Corridors shifted and realigned based on the visitor's thoughts. Knowledge repositories responded not to physical interaction, but to the questions formed in their minds. The archive is evaluating us, Skor explained, skin rippling with awe, learning our cognitive patterns. They reached the central chamber where the complete records of the founding species awaited. As Chen interfaced with the system, his consciousness expanded beyond his body, merging temporarily with the vast intelligence of the archive itself. Through his eyes, Elena and Sukor witnessed the truth. The actual directives of the founders played out in immersive detail around them. We established this council not to prevent growth, but to guide it. Not to enforce uniformity, but to celebrate diversity. Species must develop according to their nature, finding their unique contributions to galactic harmony. Further records revealed how, over millennia, the Council had gradually twisted these principles. What began as guidance became control. What was meant as protection became suppression. The founders never intended permanent technological stagnation, Chen whispered as his consciousness returned to his body. The Council betrayed their vision. Outside, the battle intensified. The stasis field generator had begun its activation sequence. They had minutes, not hours. Elena made her decision. We're broadcasting this to every system in the galaxy. Using the archive's own communication network, designed to share wisdom, not suppress it, they transmitted the unaltered directives and historical records throughout populated space. On thousands of worlds, beings witnessed the evidence of the Council's deliberate misinterpretation of their mandate. The effect was immediate. Protests erupted on Council worlds. Defense forces hesitated, questioning orders. Several junior Council members publicly renounced their positions. At the stasis field facility, the activation slowed as technicians abandoned their posts. High Counselor Zux Theron, facing the collapse of authority, seized direct control of the ancient weapon. "If we cannot guide, we shall preserve," the High Counselor announced to the remaining loyal council members. Better a galaxy frozen in time than one spiraling into chaos. But the revelation wave had reached even the heart of council power. Vexnar, once Alina's most fervent accuser, transmitted a private message to her team. "The High Counselor has gone beyond his authority. The stasis field was never meant to be used this way." The crystalline being provided access codes to the facility's inner chambers. "You must stop him." The founders valued adaptation above all, even humans' unpredictable version of it. Alina relayed the information to Hayes. As his forces breached the facility's defenses, Prometheus analyzed the stasis field's architecture and made a startling discovery. "Ambassador," the AI reported, "the stasis field doesn't affect all species equally. According to these specifications, human neural pathways would be immune to its effects." Alina froze, suddenly understanding the true stakes. That's why they feared us. The stasis field control chamber resembled a temple more than a weapons facility. Ancient technology merged with architecture designed to inspire awe, centering around a control nexus where High Counselor Zux Theron's energy form pulsed with unprecedented intensity. Alina arrived with Chen, Shkor, and Hayes, who had fought his way to the inner sanctum. Representatives from a dozen species accompanied them, including Talus and the reformed Vexnar. "You are too late," Zux Theron announced, his voice echoing from multiple points in the chamber. "The field will activate in moments. The cycle will reset. It won't affect humans," Alina stated, stepping forward. "That's why you feared us all along. You knew we would remain conscious while other species regressed." Zux Theron's form shifted, contracting into a more focused configuration. "Precisely. The precursors who seeded life throughout this galaxy built the stasis field with a singular exception, a test that occurs once every few million years." The ancient being gestured, and the chamber walls became transparent, revealing the galaxy spinning beyond. One species is always immune, allowed to guide the others through their technological infancy. A stewardship to determine their worthiness for greater understanding. A test, Chen realized. The council was never meant to be permanent. Previous immune species chose dominance, Zux Theron continued. They guided development according to their vision, creating empires that eventually collapsed under their own contradictions. My species was the last to face this choice, nearly 40,000 years ago. The revelation stunned the chamber into silence. The High Counselor wasn't merely enforcing policy. He was the living embodiment of the previous cycle. "You chose control," Hayes said, understanding dawning. "We chose stability," Zux Theron corrected, "and preserved the galaxy from self-destruction for 40 millennia. Now humanity faces the same test." The control nexus shifted, reconfiguring itself toward Alina. A pulsing interface awaited her touch. "You alone can direct the field," Zux Theron explained. "You can exempt whoever you wish from its effects. Shape the next cycle according to human values. The galaxy is yours to guide or dominate for the next epoch." Alina approached the interface slowly, feeling the weight of a decision that would affect trillions of lives across thousands of worlds. She studied the controls that would allow her to choose which species remained conscious and which would regress to pre-technological states. "Humans spent our history divided," she finally said. "Nations, ideologies, religions, we fought ourselves as often as we cooperated. But our greatest achievements came when we worked together across those differences." She turned to face the assembled representatives. "I reject the premise of this test. The founders of the council were wrong. No single species should guide the development of others." Alina extended her hand toward the interface, then stopped short of touching it. Instead, she turned to the others. "Join me, all of you." One by one, they stepped forward. Shkor's iridescent hand, Chen's cybernetic fingers, Hayes' scared palm, Talus's gelatinous appendage, Vexnar's crystalline extension. until representatives of every species present surrounded the nexus. The next cycle begins with cooperation, not dominance, Alina declared. We choose to advance together or not at all. When their hands touched the interface simultaneously, the ancient system registered an unprecedented input pattern. The stasis field generator hummed, then reconfigured itself. Instead of spreading technological regression, it established a network connecting the knowledge bases of all species, a galactic communion of ideas. Zux Theron's energy form flickered with what might have been surprise, or perhaps relief. 40,000 years, and no species ever attempted this option. The chamber filled with light as the precursor's final protocol activated. Not regression, but ascension. A holographic figure formed before them, bearing aspects of all known species yet belonging to none. The true test was never about control, the entity explained, its voice resonating with the wisdom of ages. It was whether any species could transcend the instinct to dominate. 3 days later, representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered on neutral territory to establish the Galactic Cooperative. The Council's hierarchical structure was replaced with collaborative governance based on contribution rather than longevity. Alina, offered leadership of this new order, chose instead to return to diplomatic service. Standing on the observation deck of the new cooperative headquarters, she watched ships of impossible diversity moving harmoniously through space. Humanity's gift wasn't technology, she reflected to her assembled team. It was imagination. The ability to see past what is to what could be. Chen smiled, the bioluminescence in his eyes now a permanent reminder of his connection to the Keldari. And stubbornness. Don't forget stubbornness. To challenging the universe, Hayes said, raising the glass in toast. Not challenging it, Alina corrected with a smile. Embracing it.